So, good afternoon, good evening, namaste to everyone who have joined our second webinar hosted by ANSMLS. And I myself, Ashwini Kumar Nepal, I am the secretary of ANSMLS and one of the board of directors. Uh, I would like to welcome you to this webinar. First of all, I would like to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Navin Parajuli. Navin is a ASCP certified and New York State licensed medical laboratory scientist with more than a decade of laboratory experience, including 4 years in laboratory management. Navin completed his bachelor and master in clinical laboratory science from the University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston, Texas. Currently, Navin practices as a senior medical technologist at a large referral laboratory in Syracuse, New York. And Navin will be talking about the New York State Laboratory certification. And after that, I will introduce our second speaker who will be speaking about the California certification. And without further ado, I would like to invite our first speaker, Mr. Navin Parajuli, to share his slide. Please, Navin.
Ashwini, can you see my slide and can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Ashwini. So today I'm going to talk about obtaining clinical laboratory technologist license in New York State. First of all, I would like to put a disclaimer out there that I'm not employed by New York State Office of Profession, and I'm doing this on behalf of ANSMLS, and I have cited the licensing requirement mostly from New York State Office of Profession website. So as most of you are aware, New York State is one of the states that require license for practicing as a medical technologist or clinical laboratory technologist. Clinical laboratory technologists perform various tests in the lab and provide interpretation for proper diagnosis of patient care. In order to be licensed, first and foremost, you need to submit the application and fee for initial licensure. You need to be of good moral character, be at least 18 years of age, meet education or alternative requirements as stated in the New York State Office of Professions rules and regulations. And you also need to meet the examination requirement as stated in the New York State regulations. So when you are applying for a new license, this is you apply it electronically on their website. The website is New York State Education Department website. This is the snippet of the dashboard, and you create your login and start your application here. In order to be qualified as a clinical laboratory technologist in New York State, you need to have education requirement. So as you're aware, some people obtain ASCP certification first, and some people apply to New York State directly and then take the ASCP certification. Certification and licensure are two separate things. New York State needs licensure, but ASCP provides certification. So if you are currently certified as a medical laboratory scientist by ASCP, for example, if you have MLS or ASCP MLS or ASCP IMLS credential, you meet the criteria to be licensed in New York State. You can apply on the New York State website and go from there. However, some people choose to directly apply just for New York State first. And then if you apply for New York State license, you have to meet the education requirement and then take the ASCP certification later on if you qualify. And New York State will let you know if you qualify or not after your application has been reviewed. You also can be licensed and in good standing in a state of jurisdiction with other states, for example, California, Hawaii, and you should graduate. You must graduate with a bachelor's degree or master's degree in clinical laboratory technologies program, which is a NACLS accredited, or equivalent. Or you can also be a graduate of a bachelor's degree that has a hospital-based clinical lab technology program. If you are an MLT, ASCP certified MLT, and you have a bachelor's degree, and also you have 2 years of work experience, then you qualify for a MT or CLT equivalent, clinical laboratory technologist equivalent for New York State. You can also apply as a, if you are MLT, currently MLT certified and have 2 years of work experience and also have a bachelor's degree in biology or any biological science, then you qualify for a MT or CLT practice in New York State. Again, if you are ASCPI or certified as an MLS, then you meet the examination requirement and you can directly apply for a New York State license on New York State education website. The initial application fee is $345. And that is, and for more info, you can refer to their website. Again, I want to emphasize that clinical laboratory technologists are in high demand in New York State because there is that extra layer of licensure. Unlike some other states which do not require licensure, there's a workforce shortage in New York State. And if you are interested, if you are an international graduate and you are interested, you may directly, after you obtain your New York State licensure, you can directly contact the hospital and make sure that you are actually contacting a not-for-profit hospital, and then inquire them about their H-1B visa or any other visa requirements. And that is the end of my presentation. And I'll take any questions right now or later. Back to you, Ashwini.
Thank you, Navin, for the wonderful presentation. If you have any questions in the chat, please copy it in the chat and we can come back to it later. So we will move on to the introduction of our next speaker, Mr. Niraj Rai. Niraj is a chemistry and point of care supervisor in a hospital in California. He has a Bachelor of Science in Clinical Lab Science and a Master's in Health Administration. And I will be sharing the slide for Niraj. Can you see my screen, Niraj?
Yeah, thank you, Ashwini, and namaste. Good morning if you're in Nepal. And I am Niraj Rai, so I will be presenting you how to become a clinical lab scientist in the state of California. So welcome to this part of the webinar. And so if you're ready, I am ready too. So next slide, please, Ashwini. Okay. So in order for you to become CLS in California, there are a few requirements set by California Department of Public Health, and the agency is Laboratory Field Services. So there are a few requirements, so we will be going over in each requirements in detail in our next slides. So let's move on to the next slide. First and foremost, to be a CLS or clinical lab scientist, you have to have a bachelor's in clinical lab science or any other closely related undergrad, such as chemistry, microbiology, or natural sciences, or any other sciences that are closely related to clinical lab science or medical lab science. Or if you have pre-med and most of the prerequisites are similar, so you can also apply for clinical laboratory science. So the minimum requirement for you to have is a bachelor's in clinical lab science, or like I said, in closely related degree. So with that, also you should have at least 16 semester credit of chemistry in your course curriculum, and 18 semester credit of biology, which should include hematology, immunology, and medical microbiology. And also physics. California is very strict on physics. So if you don't have physics in your course curriculum or as a requirement for you to get a license in your state, then you would end up taking this extra course just to get a license here in California. And more importantly, the physics should have lights and electricity included in your course. So I have seen many CLSs, they apply, but they don't have physics, and they are denied of having a license in California. But there are ways to get physics these days. You can do online, or you can pick any other universities to satisfy the requirements set by California Department of Public Health. So that is our first requirement, minimum bachelor's degree. If you have clinical laboratory science degree, you're very good. If you don't have clinical lab science degree, then it should be closely related, and your course curriculum should match to the course set by California Department of Public Health. Okay, moving on to next point. Next slide, please. Okay, so if you are watching us right now, and if you have a non-US degree, then your transcripts should be evaluated by one of these agencies. California Department of Public Health recognizes only 2 evaluation service agencies. So make sure that you pick one of these if you are trying to apply in California. One is National Association for Credential Evaluation Service, in short, NACES. The next one is Association for International Credential Evaluator, AICE. So you can have your transcript evaluated by one of these agencies and send it to California Department of Public Health if you have a non-US degree and needs to translate it to the US degree. Okay, so with that, we'll move on to the next slide. Thank you. So the next requirement is training or experience. So if you have 1 year of training in your course curriculum, or while you are taking a course, you are eligible for applying in California because you have covered almost all areas of the laboratory. Most of the US universities, they will have only 6 months of clinical practicum or internship. So that will not allow you to apply in California. California wants to make sure that you have completed all areas and you can work on your own when you graduate. So they want at least 1 year of clinical practicum or training in all areas of the laboratory. And by 1 year, most of us really have good skill set to practice on our own. And that's good for the people. The other route you can take is experience. If you have 1 year of experience covering all areas of the laboratory, if you're in the lab, you already know, like hematology, chemistry, blood bank, microbiology, or any other department, you should rotate through all the departments, and you have 1 years of experience, then you are eligible for applying in California. In other words, you are a generalist while you're applying in California. But there are certain routes that you can take, and you can be only CLS in chemistry or microbiology. Those are limited licenses. So once you have either training or experience, your experience or training should be written by either your lab director or your training coordinator. So if you're trying to apply in California, make sure you have a good relationship with them so you can customize the letter according to your need. So a training or work experience is a must. All right, I think we can move on to next slide, Sweeney. Exams. Luckily, there's no separate exams that you have to take. If you have ASCP, American Society for Clinical Pathology test, or ASCPI, simply stands for international. If you have international ASCPI, you are eligible for California license. You could also have AAB, that is American Association of Bioanalysts, or AMT as well. These are not as popular as ASCP, but if you have licenses or certification from one of these agencies, you can still apply in California. But the requirement may be slightly different, but you still have to meet the criteria set by CDPH, it's California Department of Public Health. Let's say if you have AMT, American Medical Technologist certification, and you don't have some classes that we talked about in our previous slide, like let's say physics, then California would not give you a license without physics. But if you have physics, or you will take physics in some other universities or community colleges, according to the need of California, then you will be eligible to apply and license in California. So again, there's no separate exams. So if you have a national certification, that's good. So we'll move on to next slide, please. Sweeney, next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, we are there. Application. So those are the requirements. Now you have all your documentation ready. You can apply at www.cdph.org, and you will create an online application. And there you have your online portal, and you will upload your official and unofficial documentations, and you will just follow the step-by-step instruction. If you are non-US grad, then you ask your university to send an official your transcript, and also the evaluation transcript done by one of those agencies, and your training or your work experience and all of that. So once you create an application online, you will have an online portal, and you will upload documentations as required. And finally, you pay the application fee. And with that, so they will have an online quiz. That's the California Laboratory Rules and Regulation. That is a quiz that you will take at the end of your applications. So if you satisfy all of this process, you can easily get California license. But the timeline, though, it can take somewhere from 3 to 4 months, or if you're lucky, probably 3 months. All the applications are backlogged, so give yourself enough time to prepare and apply for California if you are trying to move here and work. So be patient with the application process, and you can communicate with them by email. And again, they will you in 1 or 2 weeks. So that's how they will operate. And yeah, there you have it. These are the basic steps that you will follow to become a CLS in California. Next slide is the end of my presentation. And yeah, simply yes. So if you follow these instructions, you will get a license, and I will be congratulating you to see you work in California as a CLS. Thank you, Aswini-ji, for your help. And that is the end of my presentation. So if you have any questions, I think we will combinedly answer those.
Thank you, Niraj. It was a very wonderful presentation. We'll take some questions from the chat. So we have a couple of them. Let me review quickly. So, so there is one question from Gaurav. So the first question is for Niraj. So we have to study about light and electricity in chemistry. So can we relate or show these topics to chemistry, or we just only have to do physics?
Thank you for the question, Gaurav. Unfortunately, you have to take physics. So they will not count whatever you study in chemistry. So chemistry is a different subject that's how they consider. So you're gonna have to take physics if you are applying in California. Sorry.
So just to add on that question, like for example, I don't have any physics or electricity, but if I take any college level courses in the US, maybe just like 1 credit from any community college courses or online course. So does that meet the requirement, or it has to be on your undergraduate or master's and PhD?
Community college physics should work. Not 1 credit, but it's 3 credit. So I believe they have some lab associated with that. But community college credit counts. So as long as you have the course description says light and electricity, yeah, they would want to know what you studied in physics. So, we use a lot of principles of physics in our field. So at least they want you to have the background knowledge, how our analyzer works and how all the, all the methodology work. So that is one of the reasons why they want you to make sure that you have proper information on all those methodologies and how to operate instrumentations.
Thank
So,
you.
Yeah, it will.
Thank you.
Sorry.
So we'll take other question from the chat. We have Dr. Bilon Kombo with us in the meeting. And Dr. Kombo's question is, Niraj, what is the most challenging part of your job as a CLS in California?
I'm sorry, who's the person?
What is the most challenging part of your job as a CLS in California?
Okay. I'm in a management position, so I don't know what you were trying to get at. As a CLS or in the management or as a scientist, the challenging job, I mean, whether you are in California or in any other states, we do pretty much the same, whether we're called medical lab scientist or I think Navin ji, they call it clinical lab technologist. We call it clinical lab scientist. Pretty much we do the same work. So challenging maybe because of short-handed, you will have to work extra harder, go above and beyond your responsibilities. if you are asking me as in management positions, maybe the human elements is the challenging one when you have to deal with different personalities. But that's how you are paid to do, so manage employee. But if you enjoy what you do in the laboratory, it should be fine. I would think one of the challenging aspect of our field right now is just the shortage of staff, I would say. Other than that, pretty smooth sailing.
So I have a quick question to both speakers, Navin and Niraj. What are the perks of being a medtech or a CLS in uh, New York and California, besides other states?
I would like to go first. So I would say one of the perk is you will always have a job, and there is abundance of jobs. You can always pick up overtime or work as a part timer at a different institution. There is a potential for you to do as much as you want. Also, since we're in high demand, um, you have more power to negotiate because you can ask with management what shift you like. You can also, if you have if you have family life, obviously you can ask with management to give you hours that fits your family needs. That's one of the best perks of being residing or working in a state where licensing is required.
And we want to move on to Niraj, and then we also want the questions from participants who are live with us in Zoom, and we are trying to get also the questions from Facebook Live, but we don't have any questions so far in the Facebook Live. So we'll move on to Niraj. What are the perks of working as a CLS in California as compared to other states? Niraj.
Like Navin mentioned, because of shortage of staff, I think it is one of the biggest problem throughout the nation. And California is very strict on licensing and how many licenses are given per year. So there are still huge shortage of clinical lab scientists here. So one of the perks that you get is, I mean, there's no competition for a job, right? So I was talking to a friend of mine in Texas. So he is in management position, and he was saying that there are at least 10 to 15 applicants per job, but that's not the case in California. So, but you have to be a capable clinical lab scientist to work. So job security is one of the greatest perk, and if you are willing to move on up on your career ladder, and that can be like good opportunities here, I would say endless opportunities. And yes, weather-wise, so if you want to live in a nice state, California is one of the most desirable state, and it has lots of beautiful locations, and you can do a lot of outdoor activities and beautiful places. Yeah, I mean, you can go from ocean to uh, mountain, uh, desert to coastal area within one day. So it's very interesting locations we have, and it's a sunny state. I live in Southern California. There's no winter here, so there are many parks. And also, if you're looking for H-1B visas, you know, so we also file H-1B visas at our facility. So if you are watching and if you need some kind of documentations, please let me know. And that's one of the perks of being a CLS in California, but make sure that you have CLS license even before you apply for the jobs. Otherwise, you would not even be interviewed without the license. So I believe these are some of the few perks that I can mention right now.
I would like to add a couple of points to what Niraj, piggyback on what Niraj just said. There are plenty of opportunities to work as a medical technologist here in New York State, and some hospitals. There are many hospitals that are willing to sponsor visas for eligible applicants, because New York State is not only New York City, but there are other remote areas in New York State where it is very difficult for hospitals to run, as there's a huge workforce shortage in New York State. So that's also one of the perks of visa sponsorship for potential international applicants.
Thank you, Navin. So we have like few questions in the chat, but we also like to encourage if anyone want to come up, unmute, and then ask questions to the speakers. So this is a golden opportunity. Maybe like you might be working as a tech under the lab of Navin or Niraj. So like the other reason of these webinars is also to network among the colleagues who work in the medtech field in Nepal and US. Uh, so our organization mainly facilitates between different laboratory professionals. So please feel free to ask any questions you may have. So so there's one question in the chat, which is most likely for Niraj, since California has the physics requirement. Sir, I have a physics in +2, so like it's a high school degree, and does that work for the requirement?
Oh, okay. So for high school physics?
Yes, so would that work for the California requirements?
I'm sorry, who's asking?
It's from Sobana's iPhone. So her question is, sir, I have a physics in +2. Can that work for the CLS?
Hi, Savannah. Unfortunately, again, no, that's a high school physics. But I can tell you that the college level here in the United States is pretty much similar to what you take back home. So you shouldn't have any problem, as far as taking a extra course, whether it is in a community college or university. But you do have to take um, physics here in the United States beyond your high school or your +2. So that's not counted as a credit to the bachelor's degree. Yeah, so but just to encourage you, it's really not that difficult. If you already have physics back home, I think you will take physics 1 or physics 2 and will really do great. So and then there are many community colleges or universities these days, they will offer you online or mixed hybrid in a hybrid format. So it should not be any challenge if you are in the US. But if you're in Nepal, you have to have physics in your bachelor's level of course curriculum.
Thank you, Niraj. So we have another question from Gaurav. I'm doing 4th year undergrad in microbiology. This is my last year. So can I apply directly after my undergrad, or should I have an experience? So maybe it may be applicable for both Navin and Niraj. Maybe we can start with Niraj.
Or if Navin G want to go first, that's fine.
Sure, I can go first. For New York State, you do not need experience to work as a clinical laboratory technologist. You can, as long as you have ASCP certification and you apply a New York State license, you'll be able to obtain New York State license, and you do not, experience is not a requirement in New York State.
Okay. Gaurav, as a microbiology undergrad, you know, the courses are different. So the microbiology and clinical laboratory field entirely different than what we study in our undergrad. So in clinical laboratory science, it's more, how do I say, more applicable. So it's hands-on. You have to read plates, you have to find and identify microorganisms, these, that. So it's a hands-on experience. I know you guys do hands-on experience too, but I think microbiology is more towards research. So that being said, you need to have some kind of experience to work in California. And I would also encourage you to get some experience too, because you know what we study is entirely different than what we do in the laboratory. So it's much better when you have those kind of experience, hands-on experience. So if you have just a microbiology degree, and if you get a job in a hospital, and if you work there for 1 year, you are really in a good position to apply in California. They will give you a limited license to work only in California, but there are many jobs available here just in microbiology department as well. And there are many opportunities as a microbiologist here. You can work in infection prevention and quality control and this and that. So I would highly encourage you get a job in a hospital setting so you can cover all the areas of microbiology and you apply here in California. So not to discourage, but no to your questions, but I'm in favor of encouraging you to get a job in a hospital setting so you can have a hands-on experience.
Thank you, Niraj.
Ashwini, I just wanted to make one more, clarify one more thing. Looks like Gaurav is enrolled in a microbiology major. So looks like he won't be able to obtain MLS certification from ASCP because he only has undergrad in microbiology, which New York State does not have any categorical. I think he will be able to obtain a categorical ASCP microbiology certification, but New York State currently does not honor any categorical certification to work in the lab because like students like Gaurav, they will only have experience with microbiology and they will not have experience with chemistry or hematology and any other areas. And New York State does not have categorical licensure.
So Dr. Combo has another question. Why are there so many CLS personnel shortage in the states? My curiosity has been piqued. There aren't many graduates. Are there more jobs? So maybe
Navin.
it would be applicable for both speakers.
I can go first. I can definitely say that a lot of currently employed employees, medical technologists, they are retiring. There's a huge number of workforce that is retiring, and unfortunately, our generation has not been able to attract and recruit the workforce to clinical laboratory as much as our previous generation did. Having said that, there are international recruitment efforts being made, and it is slowly changing, but still it is not enough to replace the retiring workforce that is in the field.
Thank you, Navin. We'll move on to Niraj for comment.
Yes, Navin mentioned one of the main reason that why we have huge shortage of clinical lab scientists. And the other thing also here in California is there are not enough school to produce qualified clinical laboratory scientist. And the course itself will take you almost about 5 years. So it's really tough to get into the program as well. So there are not a lot of hospitals that will provide you with the clinical practicum rotation. So there are many challenges. And the other thing is our profession is not well recognized even by other healthcare professionals. So not a lot of people know about our profession. So that's one of the reasons why we are not getting new fresh grads here. So we need a huge advocacy in a laboratory field. And I think that's one of the reasons that we have created this organization and will come to you on a regular basis doing a webinar like this. So people need to know that this is a good opportunity, a good profession, and you have lots of job opportunities. You can do a lot of things, and you can be a part of a healthcare team that will save people's lives. So this is something you can be proud of. So education is not distributed to all school or future aspirants. So not knowing what clinical lab scientists they do it is one of the reasons. And our coursework or undergrad prerequisite is almost similar to pre-med. So it's really tough to go to school, and that is one of the reasons why we're not getting many CLSs.
Thank you, Niraj. So we have still few more minutes, so we'll take one last question from the participants. So if you have more questions, please feel free to ask to the speakers, or you can write them in the chat. And if there are no questions, so the recording will be available via YouTube. So there was one question from the participant that where we can access the previous webinar. So it will be live on YouTube after a couple of edits. So that is also available on our Facebook page, and it will be available for free access in YouTube. And today's videos also we will be posting on YouTube page of ANSMLS. And thank you so much, Navin and Niraj, for presenting today. I hope it was beneficial to the laboratory professionals. And before we adjourn, I'm sending a feedback form, which you will be receiving by email. And please provide your kind feedback for our webinar.
I just wanted to point out that if you are interested in contacting us directly, please contact ANSMLS, and ANSMLS admin will happily provide email address, our email address for you.
Yes, so maybe I will just put the feedback form in the chat, and where you can leave your email address. And if you have any further questions for the speaker, you can also post them in the feedback form.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.